it's Deneen here, and today I am going to be working on a page using some of the papers and journaling card from the Story Play Love Story collection from Ali Edwards. I'm going to be putting some other items in there as well, but I just wanted to kind of show you how I'm going to approach this in Photoshop Elements. And this is the photo that I want to use. It is currently in a landscape format, and I want it to be 7 by 8 1/4 in a portrait format. So I'm going to go ahead and crop that down. Let's see here. I don't want to use photo ratio, so I'm just going to kind of go in and add my own dimension. So 7 wide by 8 1/4 inches tall. And then it's kind of going to give me some options down here. You know, which way do I want to crop it? I think I am kind of just going through these. I think I like this first one. So I'm going to go ahead and choose the first one and then commit my changes. So now I have a photo that is the same size as the paper in the Love Story mini kit. And my plan here is to go ahead and actually make a flip out. I've really been enjoying making flip outs and, you know, adding content that is hidden, and then eventually the reader can reveal the remainder of the content and enjoy it, read it, and see the whole concept. So my plan here is to actually cut this photo down the middle. Okay, so I'm going to use a guide here. I'm going to go over here to this ruler, and I'm going to drag a guide out. I'm going to go over and just kind of decide, you know, where do I want that guide? So I'm just kind of moving it along here. I think what I'll end up doing after I drop the guide is just zooming in a little bit, just to get an idea, a closer idea of where I want that guide to be. So let's get off of that crop mode here. All right, so here's the guide, and I'm just going to move it, right? Just move it and drop it. Let's see, right about there maybe. Yeah, I think I like it right about there. Alrighty, so then I'll zoom out again. You can see I have my guide, and I want to, first of all, I'm going to print this photo as is right now. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. And then I want to print this side of the photo only. And I'm doing that. I mean, you could very easily go ahead and print this photo twice and then just cut down the middle here on that photo and then discard the rest of it. But I don't want to waste photo paper, and I only want this printed a second time. So I'm going to go ahead here, and I'm going to select my rectangular marquee tool, going to start at the lower right corner here, and I'm just going to drag up. I'm just going to drag up, and it will stop right where I put my guide. And now I have this selected, and I'm going to do layer, new, layer via cut. So now I have cut that photo, and if I hide that, you can see there is the other half that I don't want to print. And then if I hide this, this is the part that I want to print twice. So once you've done that, you're going to go ahead and print this out completely as one photo, and then you're going to hide this part. And then when I print this one, just to show you how I'm going to do it, I'll do File and then Print. And you can see here that it is only going to print this part. And then this over here will be photo paper that will be remaining. And I usually use what's left behind really, really well. Cut it into 3 by 4, cut it into 4 by 6, you know, whatever. I always keep little remainders of the paper that I use because I know I'll definitely be able to use it for something else. Okay, now you'll see here that this is printing in a 7 by 8 1/4, and that's because I had chosen a paper size that is a custom paper size. So I'll show you here down in page setup, and you'll see that paper size is 6 by 8. And it truly is 7 by 8 1/4 inches. And again, I have shown you how to do that in other videos, but just to show you again, you go into Manage Custom Sizes, And then once you do, you are able to go ahead and, again, here is the one I'm using. You can create custom sizes so that you can run the paper through your printer as is. And I have that because I like to run a lot of my 7 by 8 1/4 papers right through my printer to add the journaling. So that is how I'm going to go ahead and do that. And I'll cancel. And then the next thing I want to show you is how I added my journaling. So I'm going to go down here to the photo bin, and I opened the digital, this is very large. Okay. I opened the digital version of this paper from the kit. And what I did, I put another guide here. So what I did was basically just, I want this part of the paper here up until this guide to be on the back side of this part of the photo. So knowing the measurements and exactly where I laid out this line will allow me to lay out that same measurement on this paper. And the reason why I did that is because I know I don't want my typing to go beyond this blue guide. And for this type of typing in Photoshop Elements, I'll just kind of show you. This was just a text box. All I did was just, I'll just show you here, add a text box, and then let's just say that you put some words into it, whatever they were, commit those changes, and then I'll move that down for now. Then I just kind of line it up. Just line it up here, and then I grab the side, and you see how my arrow went to like a curved arrow? I will just go ahead and I will start to curve that so that it matches with this title up here. And then let me zoom in again, come down, and just show you that, just adding it in there, right? And then from there, I will just continue to type until I get to my blue line, and then I will hit enter or return, and I'll kind of space a little bit, and then I will add more journaling, and then I will return and do a couple more spaces and add more journaling. And as always, I say the same thing over and over again to you guys. There could very well be an easier way to do this. I know that Photoshop has a lot more options than Photoshop Elements, but I have kind of worked my way through and come up with systems that work well for me. So I just share them with you in case you are new and want to kind of do something along these lines. And then once you have formatted your journaling to fit into the white space that's available to you, and I'm just going to go ahead and do some undos here just to show you. It will print, okay? It will print right inside of this space when you go ahead to print it. And once again, I am running the physical paper through my printer. So I have added journaling here. I have added journaling here. All right. And then when I go to File and Print, okay, you're going to see that again, I have chosen the, let me go down here. I have chosen the paper size, which is 7 by 8 1/4 inches. And I know that running this physical paper through my printer is going to come, it's going to come out with this journaling exactly where I want it to be. Okay, so those are the two things I'm doing with the actual flip out. So the other thing I wanted to do was I opened up this little speech bubble from the February 2024 Scrapbook by the Month kit, and I'd like to use it. So I'm going to actually use the physical version of this little speech bubble, but I also wanted to create some additional speech bubbles that were similar to this with some patterns inside of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and I am going to choose, let's see here, I'm going to choose white because I want this to be white, and I'm going to go to Edit, Fill Layer, OK. And now I have a white speech bubble with absolutely nothing on it at all. And I'd like to make one of these speech bubbles with this particular paper from the kit. So I opened the paper, and in this particular case, it has a transparent background. And that's not really that big of a deal for me because I am going to end up masking the hearts inside of the shape. So let's go ahead and drag this speech bubble, the white one, here. Okay, so I have it exactly as I want it, and I want it to be masked. And so what I generally do is with the bottom layer is I will duplicate the layer and I will make a copy. And then I will drag the copy above the speech bubble, all right, because I want this paper to be inside of this speech bubble. So I'll hide that layer 0. Sorry, guys, a little bit of cat issues. Guys, sorry about that. That was not good. All right, so anyway, let's get back to where we were. I'm going to hold down the Option, and I am going to put my cursor between these two layers, and I'm going to go ahead and click. And now you see that I have a speech bubble that has the little hearts inside of it. And you can go ahead and you could move this heart paper around so that you have, you know, whatever hearts you want, however you want them laid out, whether you want them to be in certain places, I guess, certain places. Do you want them to be, you know, for example, I would like this part of the speech bubble to be filled with something of color. So I'll just kind of move that around like this, maybe move up a little bit, move over this way a little bit. I like that. So now I have this speech bubble with the hearts inside of it. So generally what I do next, because I am going to just print this and fussy cut it out, is I will go ahead and I will have the layer 0 copy selected. I will hold down Command, I think it might be Control on an HP, and I will select the speech bubble as well. And then I will do Layer, merge those layers. And I want these layers to be one piece because I'd like to see how they're going to look when I line them up on this photo. Okay, so that's the first one. And then I'd also like to create one with this 3x4 card. So this has love, 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 love on it. And I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to drag that speech bubble there. I'm going to go to the background and I'm going to go duplicate layer, and then I'm going to make a copy. I'll hide this one. And then again, same thing, drag this above the speech bubble. Okay, and then hold down Option on a Mac, and I believe it is Control on an HP, and then I will click between them. And that will give me another speech bubble with the word or the words love. So again, you could move this around however you want it. You know, if you want certain parts of it to be showing, you have to be a little more careful here because this is just a 3x4 card. So you have to be careful that you don't go too far one way or the other, left or right, but you can move it up and down and you can find a place that you're happy. And I think right there is a good place for me. All right. So once again, I have the background copy selected. I'm going to hold down Command and I am going to select the speech bubble and layer, merge layers. So now I have another speech bubble that has additional pattern inside of it. All right, so back to my photo. I'm only doing this so I can kind of size them because remember, I am going to print both of these speech bubbles and I'm going to cut them out with my scissors. So let's reveal everything. Oop, nope, not that way. I want to reveal everything here. All right, so let's begin with this. This is the one I'm using the physical part of. So I'm going to revert that because I want it to have the X and the O in it. So I will select my photo and then I will drag that into there. And obviously it is very, very large. So I know I need to resize this. And since I'm not printing it, it's just for reference. I'm using this speech bubble for reference to know exactly how I want to size the other speech bubbles. So I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to shrink this down. So I'll drag it down. Let's see, I probably should measure that just to get a good idea of how I am going to place everything. So let's find let's find that physical version. So right now I'm just kind of getting the physical version of the card out, and I'm just going to take my ruler and just measure the approximate length of this, or I guess the width, from left to right, I suppose. Just a quick measurement, and it measures about 3 inches. So I'm just going to go ahead and drag this until the width is about 3 inches. Again, I don't need to be perfect. I just need to get a good idea here. And let's see. That's good enough. That's good enough. So when I place this physical piece here, I'm going to want to place it probably somewhere up in this corner. All right. So that is going to sit there. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take this and I'm going to go layer, duplicate layer, and I'm going to choose my photo because that's where everything is right now. Okay, so that was duplicated. And then I'm going to go here and I'm going to go layer, duplicate layer, and also duplicate that into my photo. So they are both in there. One of them is large and one of them is not. So let's go ahead and shrink this one down. Okay, so I want to, and then this is going to be whatever size you want at this point, because these are going to be printed. We are not using physical products here. We are just using what I am going to print. So I'll shrink that one down a little bit. And let's pull this one here into the picture. Let's see, zoom out. Where did that land? Oh, it landed all the way down here. So I'm going to drag that up. Again, it is huge. So I'm going to shrink that down a little bit until I get both of them onto my screen there, and commit the changes, and then zoom back in for you. So my plan here is to perhaps put this one here. Again, you're just fiddling around now at this point. Resizing, moving, looking, how do you like it? What do I want to do with this? I'm thinking that I would get like a phrase sticker or a piece of chipboard, a chipboard phrase or something, and put it on top of there. Okay, let's see. Kind of just lining that up there. Okay, and then down here, I'm probably going to do something very similar. And I'm just kind of, this is all for visual purposes now, right? Just how does this look to me? How do I like this? I think, let's see, I'll pull the XO on top of that because I don't know whether this or this is going to go on top. So I'm just, again, this is all just experimenting. I really enjoy kind of designing my pages in Photoshop Elements ahead of time because I already know what it's going to look like before I actually go ahead with all of the physical pieces of the process. Okay, so anyway, looking here, I know that at some point I'm going to punch holes. I usually try to make a little mark here at about a 1/2 inch just to know, where the holes are going to fall, so I don't have to punch holes in some of these little items. Again, moving this around, maybe putting it here, moving this one maybe a little bit up, maybe a little bit over. And then I can play with this more once I get the physical pieces cut out. Do I want this one to be so large? Maybe I want to shrink this one down just a little bit more. Let's see how that looks. See how that looks. Yeah, I think I like that. I think I like that. So basically from here, what I'll do is I will just go ahead and I will hide the photo because I am not printing the photo. I've already done that. And I'm going to hide this one because remember, I'm using the physical piece there. And all I want to print out is just this and this. I just want to print these two things out so I could drag them up to the top. And I'm going to run these just on a regular everyday piece of 8.5 by 11 cardstock. So if I go here to print, and I'll click print, this is again sized to the 7 by 8.25, and I'm just going to go ahead and select US letter. And you'll see now that they've kind of fallen down a little bit. You can always grab this until it turns into a plus sign with arrows, and you could move this closer to the top. And what'll end up happening then is these will print closer to the top. I can slice this here, and then the rest of this 8.5 by 11 page I will use, run it through for something else, or whatever I decide to do with it. That is going to be my my prerogative. But I don't really ever get rid of papers until they have been used up to the max. Okay, used up to the max. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and print these. I'm going to get some paper into my printer. And I think that pretty much, I'm just going to cancel for now. I think that pretty much covers everything. This is printed right on the physical paper. I am not printing this one here because I'm using the physical die cut. And then these two have been added to this one, and I'm going to go ahead and print those out. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and then I will meet you back at my desk to show you how everything is going to come together. Okie dokie, guys, I'm back at my desk and I am going to show you my items. This one is from the February Scrapbook by the Month kit. It was the inspiration for these other two speech bubbles that I just created in Photoshop Elements. So those 3 speech bubbles are going to be added to the photo that I'm going to be working with. And then you will see here, this is the paper from the Love Story kit, where I added my journaling onto the 2 hearts on the left side of the page. And that was a labor of love. I don't mind doing it, but it does take a little time to do the spacing and stuff in Photoshop Elements, but I think it's definitely worth it. I'm also using a white piece of cardstock that I'm going to need for the actual base of the whole spread. And here's my photo, along with the half of the right side of the photo that's going to create a flip open on the right side of the page. Okay, so let's get started putting everything together here and showing you how this is going to work out. So using the cardstock and the photo, I'm going to adhere them together with just one strip of adhesive, just so that I can make sure everything comes out okay before permanently putting everything down. And you'll see I did a little trimming, and then I went ahead and punched my holes. So this is the other piece of the photo that is going to open in that manner. And I'm going to use some art tape in order to attach that and make that flip open. But before I do that here, I decide I need to cut this paper to the exact same size of this small photo. So I'll do a little bit of trimming on the left side, and then lining everything up. You'll see I'm making sure that I'm not cutting off any words. And then I will just use the photo as like a template to do my cutting. That other piece I can probably use for something else. So this is what it's going to look like. I will start with the photo, turning it upside down and putting the strip of art tape on it, and then adhering it to the white cardstock underneath the photo and making sure that it lines up perfectly with the full-size photo so that there isn't any gap or anything, and it doesn't appear that there's actually a divide in the photo. So took a couple minutes to do that, but once I get it okay, I'll trim the edges of the art tape off. And then on the inside, once I open that up, I am going to take that piece of patterned paper, and you'll see that there's just a little bit that needs to be trimmed off. And you're always going to have to watch out for that, because when you're opening and closing, you don't want any little white pieces sticking out. So you have to kind of trim the edges until you get it so that it is truly hidden when you close the flap. I went ahead and did that, and now I'm going to go ahead and adhere that permanently. And then the last thing here is to permanently adhere the rest of this large photo down. And if you've watched my videos, you know I always wait until the end to do that kind of stuff. Here's a little trimming of the bottom just to get everything nice and flush with each other. And then I'm going to work with my speech bubbles. So both of these are going to go up here at the top, and I am going to kind of stagger them just a little bit. And this one is going to go on the bottom. So I'll pull out my foam adhesive, because I want these to kind of pop a little bit. And I'm going to just put this one down with regular adhesive. and I'm going to take the foam adhesive and use it for the upper speech bubble. And I love to add dimension to things. And you'll see here that I also cut a little itty bitty teeny weeny piece off there for that bottom part of the speech bubble, just to hold it down. I don't want it to get, bent upwards or anything. So just a little tiny piece. Go ahead and pull the backing off of that, and then I will place that on top of that other speech bubble. The last speech bubble I want hanging off of the edge of that flap. So before I go ahead and adhere it down, I'm going to kind of go through some chipboard pieces and add a little bit of, just a little bit of fun stuff to each of these speech bubbles. I'm messing around here with different ones from my stash, different ones from different kits, just trying to figure out what I like best. And I end up pulling out the Love Story stamp, and I end up stamping on there. I believe the stamp that I use says a wonderful little story of love. And that matches with the phrase that is on the hearts on the inside. So I thought that was a perfect way to pull everything together. So testing that out here, making sure it's straight. Since it's a longer phrase, sometimes they can be crooked when you're stamping. I know I would like that chipboard piece above it, so I'll do a little measuring, and then I'll go ahead and stamp the phrase. And then on top of the phrase is going to be the chipboard piece that I chose. That chipboard piece says means so much, and that was from my stash. So I think that's the one that I ended up using here. Again, I want this to kind of hang a little bit off the edge of that flap. So I'll make sure that I don't cover the entire back with the foam adhesive, making sure that little piece that's going to be hanging off does not have any adhesive on it. And then I'll cut another one of those little tiny pieces just to put it on that part sticking out. Go ahead, line it up nicely, pull off the backing, and then put that in place exactly where I want it to be, making sure it opens and closes nicely, and then getting out that chipboard piece, putting that on top. I chose one that says, I think it says smooch for the top. And then the bottom one, like I said, means so much. So I love all the different shades of pink here. It's really, really fun. Kind of looking through my stash because I want to add a little heart here to the middle of the O. So I kind of go through those. And the red is not exact, but again, I'm trying to get past the whole being so picky about actual matching and stuff. So I just kind of pick out one of the hearts, one of the shapes that I like, put it right in the middle there, and I am totally happy with that. Putting everything away, this is what it's going to look like. And I'm going to add my date here at the bottom, kind of debating where I should put that, but I end up putting it on the photo. So again, as always, just a test stamp, stamp the date, and that is the end. I do add one more thing though, so let me show you how it looks in my album. The outside is exactly as I left it. Love it. Love how the photos line up so perfectly. I love the speech bubbles. This is just such a wonderfully fun kit that is good for any love story, right? I know a lot of us may not have love stories of relationships and such, but this is a love story between siblings, so any love story is great. And then the one little change that I did make was this little addition. If you look on the right-hand side, when the flap is open, I got a little stamp that has XOXO, and I just kind of decorated each of those hearts right across where the white part is with a little XOXO, just for a little bit more interest. If you know me, you know I'm all about the details. I'm always looking after the fact that, what can I do to add just a little bit more? And sometimes I go overboard, but this time I think I kept it pretty simple. So that's it, guys. Thanks for following along with me with this awesome story play collection. This is the Love Story. You can check that out on the Allie Edwards website. If you have any questions, leave a comment. Otherwise, hopefully we'll see you in the next video.